an unworthy sinner trespassing. But after I finally reached a safe seat and started to breathe again, Spirit stopped me right there. Wait a minute. Have you forgotten everything you've ever learned? Have you forgotten what it is to understand rather than always needing to be understood? Maybe you see yourself as a bundle of damaged goods. Turn around and reach out your hand. Even if you're scared to death, no one will take it. Ask someone else how he or she is today. Ask this with conviction. Open your eyes and don't be fooled by the illusion that everyone else belongs to a happy family, that idyllic ensemble you'll never have again. These people are not your enemy, but real people standing ready to welcome you if you'll only let them. Maybe they are hurting in some way or have feelings similar to yours. They might want a sympathetic ear. They want the very same things that you want. Then Spirit spoke more loudly to me in capital letters. Listen carefully to what is around you. Watch carefully without making assumptions. Stop being full of yourself. Empty yourself and leave your baggage at the door. Reach out your hand. Why can't you, as a child of God, receive others in the same way Christ has received you with his tender mercies? Receive these people rather than write their stories through your wounded imagination. Stop thinking no one sees you trembling behind the thick wall of your pride. Stop pretending that your mouth and soul are empty and dry. Look outside. Receive the beauty and glory of another. This was the moment I began to grow up, to develop my own sense of spirituality, and allow Christ to breathe through me and heal me. In the act of looking outside my complicated self, who was addicted to sad stories and self-pity perhaps I slowly discovered what it meant to be filled with that exquisite sense of being cradled in the arms of the divine, the beauty of being filled with Spirit. One last poem from Hafiz. Water gets poured through a cloth to become free of impurities. The beloved's name is a mystical weave and pattern, a hidden sieve of effulgence we need to pass through thousands of times.
I appreciate being asked to speak at this session. And I was thinking about what if we tried to do this 20 years ago? We might have had 10 people here, maybe. Half of us would have been excommunicated, probably. No, I think we're seeing some changes which are welcome to people like us. And as for my story is just like your story. Whatever your story is, I probably share part of it. Most of you already know me because I'm the author of the originator or whatever. Dan and I invented the Borderlands column, and so most of you know what my story is. But what I'd like to do is talk to you about my assignment, which is staying in the church and making it work. If you've got one of those handouts, you can keep notes on there if you'd like. And not all of these are required, but these are the things I've noticed other people do and the things that work for me. You don't necessarily have to do it in order, although they are kind of in order. If you want to skip something or switch something around, it's fine. Or if you want to do just 3 things, it's just fine too. But I wanted to go through each of these. The first thing I've noticed that people find useful is to step back and just ask yourself, where am I? We don't want to take 7 years to do it, but to do a self-assessment and then redo that assessment periodically. What you need is really an accurate picture of yourself, an accurate picture of who you are, what you believe, what you don't believe, what you're thinking about, what you like about the church, what you dislike about the church, what you need in your life, what you want in your life, what you don't need in your life, and those kind of things, and make lists. I mean, I'm an engineer, so I'm used to doing analytical kinds of things. And I found this very helpful. You can get help with counseling and so forth to give you a hand. But if you've got a copy of this handout, if you look on the right-hand side, you'll see a chapter in my book for those who wonder. If you don't have a copy of that, it's free download. At the bottom there shows you how to download it. You can get it. But in chapter 4 of that, it has a questionnaire, which is patterned after kind of something that I was involved with the church. And it gives you a start to help yourself understand yourself. And we'll talk more a little bit about this. It does take work. It's hard to understand ourselves. I mean, we're always bringing up all kinds of reasons why we think what we do, but is that the real reason? What are our motivations? Those are the kind of things that we need to be honest with ourselves about and do that assessment as to where we are. And then after you've made that assessment, maybe you've already done it, if you're going to stay, you have to make a decision to do so. Now, that doesn't mean you can't change your mind later, but you have to decide, okay, I'm going to stay, or I'm going to leave if that's your choice. But if you don't make a decision, what happens? We're in limbo. We never know what we're going to do. We feel anxiety all the time. We're frustrated. I've been through this too years ago. But your decision should be based on maybe your self-assessment. What do I need? What does my family need? How's that going to affect my friends? Those kind of questions have to be made. And once you've made the decision to stay, that'll get you moving ahead and moving on to the next steps. Maybe after a year or maybe after 5 years, it wasn't the right decision, or maybe something's changed and you can change your mind again. Or if you've left and you need to come back, you can change your mind and decide to come back and stay. I don't like these black and white things, but on the other hand, if you got 1 foot in the church and 1 foot out of the church, you're constantly trying to balance yourself. So it's better to kind of say, okay, I'm going to stay. Now, I'm not talking about going back and being a true believer among the group 1 people in the little egg I have in the Borderlands column. You don't have to pretend like you're a true believer. You can be in the Borderlands. You can, that's expanding a little bit. You can still stay and make it work. So number 3, or the third one down, is to manage your loss. Now, you may have had a firm testimony and lost it. Maybe you had beliefs and lost it. Maybe you believed that the American Indians were all descendants from Lehigh, and you lost that belief. There's a loss going on here. Or there's a loss of expectation. When I was growing up, I was always told, oh, Jeff, you'll get the testimony. Don't worry about it. It'll come. Don't worry. I'm always asking, I don't have a testimony. Well, you'll get it. Don't worry about it. But, that expectation never came to pass for me. And when I finally realized, one day I was on a business trip, and I just had kind of a little, inspiration telling me, I'm not going to know, or you're not going to know. That's not your place to know. You're not going to know whether it's true or not. And I was relieved. I don't have to struggle anymore. I know I'm not one of the people that's going to have one of those firm testimonies. But anyway, you need to manage that. And of course, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross had the 5 stages of loss: denial, anger, negotiation, depression, and acceptance, and so forth. And you'll go through those stages. Maybe you'll see yourself in one or the other ones. But if you wait long enough and you're patient with yourself, you'll get to the acceptance phase. Even though it's going to be tough, once you've had that loss, it can be really, really a personal misadventure. So anyway, chapter 7 has some discussions on that in my book, if you'd like to get a copy of it. And then the next one on the list is develop a model for your religious life that is compatible with the LDS model. In other words, you're going to define, how will I stay? What am I going to do? The church model, of course, we know what it is. Word of wisdom, attendance on Sunday, temple recommend, do your home teaching every month. There's a whole list of things. And I kind of wish honesty was closer to the top, but there's a whole list of things. which become part of the model for Mormonism, for your religious life as a Mormon. So what you want to do is to, again, write out a list of, again, here's what I believe, here's what I don't believe, here's what I'll do, here's the behaviors I'll adopt, here are the principles and ideals that I'll live by, here's the goals I want to achieve during my lifetime or during the next month, whatever you're looking at. One of them could be, for example, to do what Jesus asked us to do in terms of living. That's one of mine. I don't always do that. But it's one of my goals, one of my ideals. And if you want to see a sample model, if you look on page 78 of my book, you'll see a sample model. It doesn't identify the model as mine, but it's actually my own. And of course, that can be modified as you need to. But take a look at it. You know, it goes into the idea of things like, if I open it up here, you know, as it pertains to Christ, and I have a list of things that I'm either going to believe or try to do, as it pertains to God, as it pertains to other people, how will I treat other people? As it pertains to the church, what will I do? What shall I do for attendance? What callings will I accept? As it pertains to my family, and then finally, as it pertains to my personal life. So for me, I've got these 6 little categories, and you can develop your own model. And you'll come up with a model which will allow you to stay and be compatible, and be as compatible with the LDS model as possible. The next one on the list is to create and enhance motivations. You know, quite frankly, a lot of us in Mormonism have our motivations are based on fear and guilt. I'm going to be poor. God will take away everything I have. If I don't go to church, my neighbors are going to be upset. They're going to be wondering what's happening to me. There's those kind of motivations. And of course, we won't have those motivations available to us for our model. We don't have those, so we have to come up with other motivations. You know, maybe you could be idealistic and say, I'll do it for the love of God. Well, that might work for you. It doesn't work for everybody, but my wife and I reward ourselves. If we go to sacrament meeting, we go to dinner after. Or that night, you know. So you find ways of rewarding yourself. Maybe it'll just be I'm with my friends. That's my reward. I'm at church with my friends. That's a great. So, and we have to also identify, our motives, whether they're the presenting motives, the one that sounds good. I pay tithing because it's the right thing to do. Rather than the hidden motive, if I don't pay tithing, I don't get my temple recommended. There's all kinds of motivations, both the presenting ones that we like to talk about, and the ones that are hidden that sometimes you have to delve into during your self-assessment. So anyway, you've got to have some motivations, new motivations to make your plan work. And then the next one is determine how your model affects significant others and adjust accordingly. You shouldn't make your model up or act on your model alone by yourself. I mean, you've got to involve the people around you, your spouse, your children, your parents or your friends or whoever else is there is going to be impacted by the way you live your model. If your wife or a husband are true believers and you're going to go to church once a month, that might not work out. So this is a place where we have to determine whether or not our model needs to be modified. And of course, what the logical thing to do is to bring other people into our discussions as we develop our religious model, as our new spiritual model, whatever you want to think of it. And you can think about things like, what if my kids adopt my model for their life? Would that be okay? Wait a minute. I want them to go to church. So you got to think about the effect of the way you live your model, how it will affect others, and you may have to make some modifications. And the next one down is maintain and protect your important relationships and be flexible. How many of you think that going to church is more important than having a good relationship with your spouse? There's some people probably think going to attendance is more important. I've had people write me and say, my fiance blew out of here as soon as I told him I had a question about the church.